this is what you want to train our focus on for probably the next 1 hour, just looking at inclusion, particularly of children, learners living with disabilities, and what exactly we are doing as a country to alleviate that burden. My guest is here, Johanna Mweu, who is the Deputy Academic Registrar Examinations, as well as KISE Chairperson 2022 Conference. He will be helping us understand about this and so much more. Welcome to the program, Mr. Johanna.
Thank you very much.
I'm just listening to that particular story done by our very own Farah there. There's really quite a raft of issues that has been brought forth. Matters of inclusivity, representation, advocacy, stigma also coming to the forth there. What do you say about all this that have been put forth?
Well, thank you, Doreen. And first, I want to say I'm very grateful for the invitation. And this is a very important topic in this country and in the world, because when we look at people with disability, quite a long time they have been segregated. And well, there's been a talk of inclusion, but when you look at it, it has not really taken shape to what it should be. So with that respect, I want to say that as an institution, Kenya Institute of Special Education, where I work and where we are the largest institution in terms of matters to do with special needs.
Yes.
I want to really just take this time before I answer your question that to explain what is Kenya Institute of Special Education. It is the only institution that trains learners or teachers for learners with special needs at a diploma level. So we are doing an in-service training. It was established in 1986 through a legal notice number 17 of February that year. We do other we have other mandates which include assessment, which include production of assistive devices, which include research, among others. But for this talk today, we want to see where we are in terms of the education, the rights of the awareness that the community needs to have. I want to begin by saying the current CBC is one of the best things that came for us in special needs, because previously we were ranked with the others and we could not compete with them. One is because we have limitations and as such we cannot raise the same. So for that reason, now we are talking of competencies, and those competencies is what we need to look at. We just need to see what can a child do, not really what can a child do against another child. It is what the child can do. We have subjects or units which we teach children who cannot undertake the academic pathway. They call it stage-based, whereby the child is assessed by his or her ability and competence to do whatever aspect. Well, when we look at some of the things that are taught to those children, others may not see it as something very important. But if somebody cannot dress, cannot button a shirt, and is trained to a level that that person can button the shirt, I think that is a very big achievement for our children. And that is where we are when we talk of those children. Now, in the education of these children, there is one person who is very important. That is the parent or the guardian.
Just before we get to that, Mr. Johanna, before we get to parents and guardians, and we'll do that momentarily.
All right.
But you've mentioned quite a raft of issues which I want us to elucidate a bit further before we get to that particular, the next point. And you've touched a bit on CBC. Maybe you can just talk a bit about that, because, and perhaps you can prime my knowledge on this one. There had been quite a number of complaints here and there that, we are moving to a new curriculum. And it's quite good, just the way you've mentioned. Of course, you know that reviews and the task force is still out there collecting these reviews. But then the Ramo question had been, the place of these children? Because, I mean, this is a curriculum that is more engaging. It's more child-centered. And you can imagine, just for a well-abled child, the kind of complaints that were coming respect to, you know, the engagement bit of it. So how much more of a child living with disabilities? Are you telling me that some of these provisions had been made, and perhaps if so, to what extent, just for these particular children?
Yes, thank you very much. I think, just as I said, CBC for us has been a blessing. It's a blessing because, again, we don't have that competition, as I just said.
Yes.
Now, the provisions in this competency-based curriculum include 2 pathways which are taken by learners or children or persons with disability. One is they follow the regular curriculum with the rest, but they do adaptations. We get adaptations.
All right.
For example, if it's a child who has visual impairment, who cannot see, then that curriculum is adapted so that now he or she can access it and be able to undertake it. Those are children who can just follow the regular curriculum, but with adaptation, modifications, and be able to that is called age-based with adaptation. The other pathway is the stage-based, where they cannot undertake the academic curriculum, so they have their own kind of pathway, which is called stage-based pathway. And they begin with the foundation, they go to intermediate, they go to pre-vocational, and they end at vocational. In that pathway, they need not do mathematics, need not to do science, but they do activities of daily living, where for self-care and such like. And these are children mostly with intellectual challenges. That is now the pathway. Remember, before the CBC, they were taken to school, and it was for the teacher to decide what the learner will take. But now the CBC has
Things
a provision.
have shifted.
Yeah, they have a provision.
Okay.
And it is within that CBC that now we are seeing the parent being engaged.
Yes.
You know, previously the parent would bring the child, give to the teacher, and expect the teacher to do all that pertains to the development of that child. But today, with the CBC, the parent is engaged and has to play a role. And this one, Doreen, actually what informed us now to think of now the conference we are thinking of is during the COVID-19, everything stopped. Schools were closed. There was social distance to be maintained. Now, look at our children who cannot be supported without being one-on-one. And some children were undergoing physiotherapy kind of services. They were doing they were getting other support, which are continuous, which they have to undergo throughout. When COVID-19 came, everything stopped. They went back home. The parents had no idea of what to do, so the children retrogressed in everything that they were doing. So when it came to going back for the services, the children had to start right from very far to catch up with that. And that is what made us now look at now. We have been supporting the parents, but has it been enough? No, I think we need to do more. And one of the things that we have to discuss is about the parental empowerment and engagement, because it's one of the principles in the competency-based curriculum.
I hear you, and we'll definitely do that. But then also, I want you to tell me, just also from your practice, because also this is largely what you deal with, how far are we as a country in terms of inclusivity? And again, I'll also borrow this from that story being done by Farah. And you've clearly heard that when it comes to this marginalized areas, the northern part of the country, even have areas whereby these children are sort of like thrown away, taken a back seat. It's like they're not people at all. So how far are we as a country in terms of inclusivity of children with disabilities, and particularly on matters education?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, inclusivity, it's a very big step that the country has made. It's a big step because...
So the state has at least done something, eh?
It has done a lot.
All right.
It has done a lot because we started from a school for children who are blind, something like that.
Yes.
A school of children who are deaf. A school for children who are mentally handicapped. That's where we started. And that school was exclusively for such kind of children. So that is already a big segregation. And with that kind of segregation, it was very difficult for the children now to get included in the society there after school. But now, after that, the segregation, we went to integration, where we could see a school, a regular school, with a unit of children with disability. And during recess time, lunchtime, they could meet, they can share, they do socialization. That was also. Now we are talking of children have a right to get to any school of their choice. Regardless of disability. So what are we saying? It is the school that should adapt, should be modified, should be able to accommodate the child. So if I'm a child with a disability and I cannot access a school, then the school is the problem. But previously, it was the child is a problem. So you would get, no, we cannot accommodate that child here.
Yes.
But now it is, I want to be in this school, I cannot see. It is you, the school, to make sure that
ways to make sure
that I'm accommodated there. So that is now there, and it is law. It is law. The policy says that. The law says that. The Basic Education Act says that. Persons with Disability Act says that. So currently we are saying we have made steps.
So then, Mr. Johanna, just allow me to butt in on that one. You are saying that the whole idea of having specific children for the blind, specific schools for the blind, specific schools for the deaf, for the lame, it was actually a bad idea from the onset?
I think I was expecting that question because it needs clarification.
Yes,
The clarification is this, that children with disabilities, there are some who cannot benefit much in an inclusive setting. So they still need those special schools. They still need those special schools. Because they're still there. The severe ones. They still need those schools. So the schools are there. But again, within those schools, they need also to find ways of exposing those children to the world, because the world is not it is not disability friendly fully.
Yes.
So they still need to be exposed so that they can be able to adapt to the world.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that was a good clarification, because then one would wonder, these schools still exist.
Yes.
So if you're saying that having all of them in one area, so then what about those severe cases, as you've mentioned? What about these schools that still exist? For example, the Thika School for the Blind, still very much there.
We need it, yeah.
So also, then tell me, what exactly has been the biggest disconnect? Because you have just said that so far, so good in terms of what the state is doing, and you have well enumerated that. But on the other side, we are also still covering stories. We are still hearing stories where these children, they're not so much in society, much as they have been born into this society. What exactly is the disconnect? What has been our biggest undoing in terms of just fully including these children?
I think one, we have cultural beliefs which are still there. So the stigma is still there in some communities. So for us to do away with the stigma and that kind of segregation, I think we need awareness creation, sensitization, and basically that is what we will sort out our people. It is still not everybody has been reached by, has received this sensitization and awareness creation, and that is where, as a nation, we need to go. And this is not only for the government, it's for everybody. That now
it's holistic.
Yeah, it's holistic, such that anybody, including KBC, that is what they should do as day in, day out. Not only one documentary like that one of Farah today, it should be every time.
Continuous.
Continuous. And all these radio stations, and especially now that we have this local language, I think that is where we need to get in, so that the advocacy can be felt, the awareness can be created. Because again, right in the counties, we have support services. We have what we call educational assessment and resource centers. That is where children are taken, they are assessed, and they establish the kind of need and the support that the children need. At KISE, we have the referral assessment center. In case they can refer to KISE, as actually we have 47 education assessment and resource centers. We call them EACs in short. And the 48th one is now the KISE one, which is a national referral one. And with that, the support is there. And we have officers down there who can now assess the children and give the right intervention. The intervention could be referring for medical. The intervention could also be educational, so that now they get support. So we still need a lot to do. We have a lot to do in terms of sensitization and awareness creation.
All right, I hear you. You've talked about culture, and there's so much you can do in terms of awareness and sensitization. And I like the fact that you're saying that this is a holistic kind of effort. We can't really burden and say the state needs to just be doing this because it is the government. But at an individual capacity, there's so much you can do. So then what do we do about the aspect of culture? You realize culture is very much deep-rooted. There are some places in this country that this is our way of life. This is how we know how to do things. So what more can we do about the aspect of culture? Seems to be a very big problem in solving this issue.
Yeah, I think just as I said, we still have to move in more because it was worse before. We could not get those children. They are hidden, they are whatever. But today, I'm telling you, we have very many who have been shown up in schools and such like institutions, unlike before. So when again we talk of culture, culture will only be broken if they get to understand. Ignorance is also one of the issues that now will make them not change. But once sensitized, I think we shall get it there. Yeah, so we still have a lot of work to do.
We still have a lot of
work, as all of us.
And I'm really thinking a lot has to be done, particularly when it comes to the aspect of culture.
Okay, yeah.
But also talk to me about the role of parents in all this. And these parents will now bearing the biggest brunt of the burden because they're the ones who stay with these children at the end of the day. They are their children.
Yes.
How then should parents navigate this in terms of nurturing these children with disabilities? And still on the matters of education.
Yes, very good. Yeah, parents, our schools, the area of special needs actually started with kind of a charity, sort of. It was like we could see the churches were the main players. So there was a lot of, you take your child to the school and it's like everything is done and the parent sits back. And to the extent even some parents left their children in those schools and could not go back for them, either because they could not afford to be taking them or rather they are seeing them as a burden. There are so many things that happen. But the churches played a role, a big role to start this education. Because for some schools like Thika School for the Blind and the others, they are started by the Salvation Army. So you can see. So with that, now is when, with the CBC, we are bringing in the parent. Parent, what is your role? What is it that you need to do? The continuity of this child back at home. Because the child will not remain in school forever. Not remain in school forever. So needs to go back home. And when he goes back home, I think now the parents take over. However, it has always been when an organization, when it feels like there's a child with disability, they will only go to support the child. And remember,
the parent.
Yeah, the parent. And the parent might be suffering even more than the child. Because the child has been warned, cannot see, but the child is adjusting and going on. But this parent has been hit seriously by the birth of this child, because whenever a parent is expecting a child, it's always the parent is waiting for a prayer to be answered to get a child. Then the child comes with disability. Now that parent, some parents will get off.
They just switch off.
Switch off because now they did not expect this. Some of them may even now want to take care of this child to the extent that they have to resign from their work. You know, that one brings another economic burden. Some families break because of that. So now this parent,
those that think it's a curse now.
They think it's a curse. There'll be blame game. So the coping process of the family becomes very difficult. So for that reason, that is one thing that now the parent needs to be empowered, need to be engaged, so that now the parent does not see it as a burden for him or her. And that is why one of the reasons that we thought of this dialogue in this conference that we are going to have. So the parent is a very important person. So the support, when we are giving the child, we give the parent. Now the child, like the one who cannot see, he needs some devices that need for him to be able to read. Remember, a child who has no disability will only need a pen. A pen, you'll get it from the kiosk, in fact, at 20 shillings. But this child who is blind will need a machine we call a braille machine. Talk of the financial burden now. No, that one, the braille machine costs over 100,000. Remember now, this is a parent, the child has a disability, he needs this machine. The machine is also not locally available. You cannot go to any bookshop and pick it. So those are now the kind of things we are talking about, that we need to engage the parent and make sure that the parent is supported as much as the child is being supported. So in that regard, then we are agreeing that these parents play a very much significant role. And sometimes you can agree that the parent could even be suffering more than the child is suffering. Sure, Doreen. So then what forms of training are there for these parents, for instance? Because just as you rightfully put, this is perhaps a family, a couple, a parent expecting a child. This is not what was in their mind, but hey, it has already happened. What trainings are available, and at what point do you start training this parent to understand how to deal with the child? In these assessment centers I talked about, the ones in the counties, the 47 plus the one at KISE, there is, when they're doing the assessment, there is an aspect of guidance and counseling. It is there. It is a must. For the guardian and parent? Or parent? For the parents. Because the parents have to play a role, even in the assessment. They have to give information and give the right information, so that now this child can be seen what is it that the child needs to be supported in. Now, the training may not be really a structured one as of now, but that is what we are thinking about, that we have maybe a kind of a curriculum. But we have a curriculum which has been developed by KICD about caregivers, because they are also very important. Actually, when we talk of parents, we must talk about caregivers, because they all are looking after the child. So currently, what we are doing is we are engaging the parents and asking them to form groups, peer groups, as they educate one another, as they share experiences. That is now another way of healing. Because when they come there, they are like the ones who come to KISE, they have formed a group. They come, they get space there, they do their meetings, they share a lot of experiences. And I'm telling you, it is working for some parents. They are seeing light, a lot of light. For them, it also comes as a form of supporting one another. Yes, peer support. You talked about, the counties and this assessments being in counties. Of course, there's also one at KISE, as you've rightfully put. But then one would ask, yes, it is in the county. Is it in all these 47 counties? And perhaps if it's so, what about those deep areas in the villages and even in the cities? What about the peri-urban areas? Exactly. I think that is where we need to put a lot of effort. And actually, that is about now resources. And it's resources in terms of finances and in terms of human resource, such that, because the counties are expansive, that one I agree with you, and the staff there may not be adequate to be able to support, to be able to reach the counties, the sub-counties and the villages and so on. Another thing about those centers, just as I said, they need a lot of resourcing, is when we are doing this assessment, it's not a one-man, kind of assessment. It's a multidisciplinary kind of a process, whereby we need a teacher, we need a psychologist, we need another professional, such that at the end of the day, they're able to put their the assessment together and make a conclusion. So that now that conclusion now will lead to what kind of intervention, what kind of support does the child require.
I know you've said that these assessments are not structured, but you're looking into that moving forward. But also just for purpose of clear understanding, make me as well as our viewers understand, and even for parents who might be facing this and they are watching, for instance. So then how long do this training last, for example? And perhaps even in a day, how does it cut out for parents? Not that these parents also, they have jobs that they are doing.
Exactly.
How then does it really work out, much as there's no structure formula for it?
Yeah, there's no structured training as of now, and you have rightly said that some are working, some have different, they cannot meet. Yeah, they have different engagements. So and it is that reason that now we ask them to be in groups.
Okay.
And when they're in groups, they're able to plan for themselves. This is not about sitting and receiving a lecture. It's an interactive kind of training, whereby sharing ideas, sharing of experiences is what actually, because I'll say, I did this to my child, I did this, and the other one will say, I did something, and through that you'll be able to see which one worked, and you try it and it works. That's why I'm saying it's not structured as of now. But for caregivers, I think we can tell them what they need to do to a child who is maybe visually impaired, maybe in terms of mobility. How do you sight guide that child so that it doesn't get hurt on something like that? And the other thing about parents also, which we always discourage, is overprotection. They do overprotect their children so much that now their children cannot get the opportunities and the experiences they need. They need to fall one or twice so that now they realize there is something, but of course not getting hurt, because the world is that way. Because even a sighted or a person without disability, children without this, they fall. So some of these experiences should be there.
And also during these trainings, at least this was take part, so that then a parent does not feel that because my child is impaired in one way or another, then they need like some extra.
Yeah, exactly.
Extra care.
Yeah. So that is overprotection, which is not good.
I hear you, I hear. But then again, I like what you're talking about, because also I want to believe that also as KISE, these are things that you're equally doing in terms of training. But then one would wonder, it's so good to offer this training to these parents for them to understand how to deal and work around their children. But then are parents in different parts of the country, like there we talked about the villages, for example, peri-urban areas, even in urban centers, are they aware that we have, for example, institutions or forums that can train a parent living with a child with disabilities? Do they even know that these places exist? That's a good question. And just as we have said, the areas of this jurisdiction are so expansive. Exactly.
The same thing now will happen in terms of how will they know. And that is why I'm telling you.
So it's also expansive.
Yeah, that's why I'm telling you, KBC and others, I think you need to have it down there, because when I'm in the village, I'll take the radio and I'll put it on, and I'll hear and I'll get to know. That is how I'll know there is a what? There is an assessment center within it might be very near, but I don't know. But when put in my local language radio station or TV, I'll know. Those are the things that we need the media to support us in. Yeah. We cannot say that we will walk all over the country and be able to do that. It's not easy. Exactly. But the power of the media, we can ask you to support us on that.
All right. And also, I understand you want there's a place for media in all this. But again, when we come back from this break, I'd also want to understand, even just as an institution or an organization, perhaps as KISE, of course you can't go to all the 47 counties, to all the 290 constituencies, all the over 14,000 wards. But exactly what are you doing in terms of just creating awareness in your own right, in your own small way, for these parents out here to understand that we have these institutions, this is what we are offering, these are the programs for you as parents and for you as learners, and also the aspect of rights of these learners. Do they even know their rights, for example?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'll zimariate on that one. We take a very quick breather. I'm still here with Mr. Johanna Mweu. After this break, we come to continue this conversation, just looking at where we are as a country in dealing with children living with disabilities. After this break, stay with us. Exactly a minute past the top of the hour, still holding court with my guest, that is Mr. Johanna Mweu, who is the Deputy Academic Registrar, Examination and the Chairperson of the KISE Conference 2022, still discussing on matters of inclusivity, and this is particularly on children living with disabilities, and also looking for how we can incorporate and support the parents as well as the caregivers. Now, Mr. Johanna, before you took that break, we were talking about this trainings being across the counties, and we also touched on the role of media, perhaps how we can help to just see how we can solve and salvage the situation. But also what I had sought to get from you is what you're doing as an institution. Of course, I rightly put it that you cannot go everywhere in the country to sensitize and create awareness that we exist. We can offer trainings at forum. But in your own, maybe small, big way, what are you doing to just let parents and caregivers and guardians know that, these institutions really do exist?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Doreen, once again. As an institution, we really take that seriously, because we know one of the challenges in education of children with special needs and disabilities is about that awareness and sensitization. So we at the institute, we have the assessment center, which is fully furnished with very, very modern equipment, which include physiotherapies, equipment, and what have you. And we organize for outreach services. We have, we do them timely. We go out to a county, like I think lastly we were in Kajiado, and we just have an open outreach program. And I'm telling you, the people who come there are many. Many children are brought, at very short notice, and very limited resources that we have. We do those outreach. We have been there to Kilifi, we have been to Kwale, we have been to Samburu, we have been to Kajiado, and we keep on going around. That is one way that we are doing it. But of course, with the limited resources. Yes. Because again, the people who do the assessment, they are also lecturers, and they have also trainees who are there. So we try to balance all those things. And for sure, when we go out, we really get a very big crowd. And that tells us that more can be done. And with more support, I think we can do better. Again, what we do is during those outreach programs, we again partner with the institutions on the ground, like the medics. We partner with them so that during that time, we go and support one another. Because I told you, assessment is not one area, it's a multidisciplinary approach. So we need again to look at the different people who are down, the professionals who are down there, and we engage them. The other thing is our parents will also need another kind of education to tell them that a disability is not something that can be undone. It is only the functioning of the person that can be improved and can be, made for the child to be able to do things more near normal. Let me just say normal, because the others don't do abnormal, but in quotes, by just giving support and adaptation through adaptations. Because again, some parents will want to imagine, like the outreach, when we go outreach, they want to imagine now the solution is coming.
And some wallow in self-pity for the longest time.
They'll want now, they are coming. Now that they are coming, I'll take the child, and it's like it will be reversed. It may not. So again, those are some of the things that the parents need to understand, that this disability may not be reversed. It will just remain, and it is improving the functionality of the child that we need, so that he can be able to do the daily living skills are the most important.
So then, of course, these outreaches have really yielded fruits in various places. you've been?
The places we have been, we have really had a big crowd, and the children they have come out. So again, sensitization.
So then, I hear you. So then, even as you're out here, sir, let me just pick your brains on this one. What are the experiences? What are you learning from parents? What are they saying?
No, the parents will need that support seriously. However, there is the parents. The parents who will still feel that the support they need is like material support, financial support, so that now that it came with a charity kind of as a way of supporting, from the churches, the churches, and right from the donors and what have you. But there's still those parents who will feel they'll feel that now we are coming to be given something to support this. But what we need, what we really emphasize on them is about supporting the child to be able to function, to be able to function in a better way, to be able to do the activities of daily living, to support, to be independent. All right? That's what we do. But we always find those parents coming along, but we also find the others who will understand that. And that is why, again, we need the parental engagement and empowerment. Put them in groups and let them understand that through the sharing of experiences, they can support those children in a different way, not necessarily by getting the handouts, but by them participating.
And I mean, what I'm drawing from you, and I think that's why I wanted to just get your account on the experience of parents. It looks like there's a big burden on matters of finances. And that's why some would really think, like when they see you, they think, oh, our Messiah has come, finally, So then how do you deal with these parents? Of course, this again coming at the backdrop of, like, for instance, now, the high cost of living. Good number of these guardians and parents are dealing with quite a lot of that. So then, even in your practice, perhaps when you go out for outreaches, how do you deal with these matters of finances, these matters of handouts? What exactly are you teaching and training them to be more empowered, for example?
Yeah, the empowerment here is about understanding, being aware of this disability is not the end of life for this child. The child can be supported. The child can go to school like any other child. Those are the things. Those are the things that the parent needs to understand. And also, maybe if, the other challenge again is that the schools are not there. For some of these children, they'll fear. The distances of the schools are again very far. Even for the children without disabilities in some areas, the schools are very far. So again, mobility, moving to the school for a child who has mobility issues, then it becomes a challenge. So now those are the things now that, as parents who are empowered and parents who are fully engaged, they can now even do some caucusing within their regions and engage the leaders, engage the politicians, and see on how maybe a school can be built, maybe how they can access those schools, maybe how the schools can be made boarding if it is necessary.
Reduce on the movement.
So that now the children can access the schools. In fact, that's a good point, because some children don't go to school, not necessarily because the parents don't want. The schools are far away. In fact, we did a research sometimes in 2018, and we realized that was also one of the challenges that was making children not go to school. The parents are willing, they go to school. And then again, when it is very far, the parents take them, and to pick them, it becomes a problem. Like when it's a short break, maybe like the midterm for 1 week, or rather a holiday for 1 week, the parent will feel it is very expensive, because again, may not be able to afford. So the child will remain in school. Those kind of things. That is why we want now the parent and the parents to come together and be able to understand and support one another. And now through that, I think the government comes in very easy.
Exactly. When there's already like a group already knowing where they're going, form of support has already been established.
Exactly.
All right, so then this aspect of transition, how then are you doing it in terms of engagement? Because it's really one thing and a good thing to say that we are doing trainings for parents at this level, because I want to believe it's level per level. But assuming there's a child that has already left primary school, for example, they've already gone to secondary school. Now these are teenagers. This transition from one stage of life to another stage of life, what is happening in between here? Because we've already established that parents and caregivers equally suffer just as much or even more. What is being done in terms of engaging parents in this capacity of transition? Yes. Yeah,
one thing, Doreen, I want to tell you, disability has no levels that this is a young one and this is
an older one.
No,
okay.
It's a disability.
All true.
If we cannot see at this level, cannot see. So what matters is that how do we support them at those levels? Now, so the parent just needs to understand what are the implications of this kind of a disability. And once he understands that implication, it will affect the young one, and it will also affect the older one. However, the older one will have, of course, the developmental kind of issues that come with the age. That one we understand. So that transition has been a very big problem for some children with disability, some disabilities. But for disabilities like visual impairment, they're able to compete and be wherever the others are with support. Of course, and adaptations. Because I'll always talk of adaptations, because we will not say that don't do this. We just need to adapt it so that the person is able to see it, to do it. Because if it's a task that is visual, then if I cannot see it, can you put it in such a way that I can hear it, I can understand it by explanation, and I'll be able to do it. That is, for those with a hearing impairment, again, it's very easy, the transition very well. Again, we have challenges in adapting their work. Now, the persons with intellectual challenges have been the biggest group that has always not had very good transition. These children will be in a school, maybe do a lot of vocational work, but at the end of the years, the child is good in doing a specific kind of a task. If it is a table being produced, for example, this child may not have skills to do the calculations, to cut, the cutting, but this child is able to do a lot of sandpapering such that by the end of the day, that piece of wood, that table is so smooth, done very well. And that is enough. That one should take that child to somewhere to transit and get a job in a carpenter's shop.
So look for the abilities of that child.
Yeah, and be in that carpenter's shop only to do the sandpapering. Because at the end of the day, when he does it, it is perfect. Then what else do you need? Now, in our country, it has been, what do you bring your papers? They don't have papers. They don't do any exam to give them certain papers. So they will remain in school. They will to grow the school. And now when they have to leave, they have nothing to show. And nobody is willing to employ them because they don't understand them. So again, sensitization, awareness creation, very important. And we know in the law, it is very clear that the workforce, 5% should be persons with disability.
Let's talk a bit about that, because you've just mentioned it and I've thought in my mind, it's so much talk about trainings of parents, and of course we'll come to the learners as well. But then again, even as talk about the 5% as per the labor laws and per the workforce, but also do employers understand even how to work around, persons with disabilities, for example? They've already transitioned, they've left primary school, they've gone to high school, perhaps those that managed, those that went to even higher learning, but now in the workplace, do employers understand how to deal and work around these children?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, this persons, and could that also be the reason as to why we don't really see them in the workspaces?
Yeah, I think it just boils back to, I don't know how to deal with this person. Even in some schools, I'm telling you, you will find the teachers, maybe they are not trained in this area. So they will always be scared. They will not want to have maybe a child with disability. They don't know what to do. They don't know. And in the event that one of the teachers within the school is trained in SNE, whoever child and any child with a disability will be referred to that teacher.
To this one teacher.
Yeah, it will be mtoto wako, mtoto wako, mtoto wa fulani. You know, that kind of a thing. It's not because they don't want to support. It's because they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the skills, they don't have the awareness that these children can do very well. Like when it comes to catering, those with hearing impairment are very good, very good. They do a lot. We have caterers who are, I understand there is a hotel here in Nairobi where all the staff are deaf. And they do a wonderful job. The meals are very good. You know, those are the things. It's just because of fear of the unknown that the employers,
lack of understanding.
Yeah, then the employers will feel, no, now this one, since he cannot talk, he cannot do. I'm telling you, even there is maybe an explanation of one person who was blind, went to a hotel, and into the hotel, everybody was just like standing, even the waiters, they didn't know how to get to that, and to that person. So this person, the guide came in, so there were two now, at least the guide was seeing. So now they came, because now they have somebody they can serve. The other one they could not serve. Why? It's because they don't know how to deal with that person. And even when they came to ask her, what are you going to take? It is the one who is sighted who was being asked those questions on behalf of this one who cannot who cannot see. The imagination was, since you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot understand, there is nothing you can do. No. And you know, in Kiswahili, they even call them wagonjwa, which is not right. Yeah, because they're not sick.
They're just able differently.
Yeah, they're just able differently. So those are the things. It's actually a community issue. It's a perception.
It really does cut across.
It cuts across.
And we'll come to the role of the community. I mean, there's really looking like there's quite a lot to discuss on this one.
Yeah,
we'll come to community. But then before that, let's now come back to the learners. So then, these learners, are they even aware of their rights? Basic right to education is enshrined in the Constitution. KBC. You've definitely touched on issues here and there while enumerating them, explaining them in great detail. But this particular learners that now we are talking about, these children living with disabilities, are they aware of their rights? That this is my right to be in class and learn regardless?
Yeah, I think now we are going there. We are going there.
Okay.
Now, in the beginning I said, the children will go to the school of their choice. And we have seen them doing it now. They are doing it. They are going to a school and saying, this is where I want to be. And the school has no option.
They're taking a firm stand now.
Yeah, they are. They are not like before when you know, these are the children who are coming to Form 1s, and on the day of reporting, the child is blind or has this disability. No, we cannot. Now the children are saying, I want to be there. I want to be there. Even in the workplaces. There's some people who have joined, persons with disability who have joined some companies, and realizing that they have a disability, they say, no, I want to be there, and especially the public institutions. And they are doing it. So now we are saying they are now realizing their rights very much. And they have groups, they have unions, which now they also articulate their issues. We have groups that do the advocacy. And as an institution also who works with them, we do a lot of it. Yeah. We do a lot of it.
Yeah. And also they also have representation even in places of parliament, for example.
Parliament, yeah.
You have just specific slots in Senate that this one is for want to represent persons with disabilities. And of course this cuts across and cascades down to even these children.
Exactly.
So at least now they understand so far that this is my place. If I want to be in such a school, I can be, regardless.
Yeah.
We also talked about the experience of parents. What are the experience of learners in the grounds, the various areas that you visited? What are these learners with disabilities talking about? For instance, what is it that they want the government stakeholders to do for them?
Well, when we go for outreach, the children feel that they're not supported, you know.
Just as the parents?
Just as the parents. So they just request for support.
Yeah.
And the support is about now attending school and getting the right resources to be within the school and to feel part and parcel, to be given equal opportunities like the others, not to be seen that they cannot do this. They can do. Disability is not inability.
Exactly.
So they can do, only given the opportunities. Give us the opportunities, that's what they say. Give us the opportunity and we shall show
what we can do.
What we can do. And for sure, you give them, you'll see they do it.
Exactly.
And they do it very well.
Yeah, just like from the examples that you've already given.
Yes.
This aspect of support, let's talk a bit about that, because this aspect of, for example, the devices, I mean, we can constantly talk about how expensive some of these devices are. So in terms of support, perhaps what more can we do? And this not just as government, but holistically, because you've already said that this is a holistic kind of effort to offer these devices to these children, things that they can use to read, for example, if it's the canes to walk, that can aid it walking. What more can be done in terms of support?
Yeah, currently the government, we can say it's doing well, because in terms of, is it the money that is it the capitation that is given to the other children without disabilities? And this one, I think the ones for those with disabilities, there is an additional amount. I don't know the real amount, but I'm sure there is a kind of an additional amount to cater for those expenses, because to educate maybe a child with disability might be a bit more expensive than to educate a child without a disability. So that is what the government is doing. But when we look at it, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough, because
something more needs to be done.
Yeah, because again, the machine I was telling you.
Yes.
If the school has the machine.
This is the Braille? The
Braille machine, which cost over 100,000. The child will use it, but on leaving, what will the child use when he goes out? You see? That's the thing.
Have you ever thought about that, by the way?
Yeah, well, yeah. He needs to transit with the machine so that he can use it. But now those machines just remain in school, so the child has to leave and has to go and look for his or her own. That is something that I think the support should go beyond just having the machine within the school. It should go with it. However, we are having technology which is now, supporting some of our learners very well, because of different softwares which now are friendly and they can access. Again, to access them, those softwares, maybe they need to buy them, and what have you, they need to subscribe, they need better phones, all that kind of a thing. So again, it's a bit expensive. For these, for those with mobilities issues, we still have the wheelchairs, but we are out of those ordinary wheelchairs which you keep on pushing a lot. You get tired. We want the motorized ones so that at least life can be easy. Again, it's expensive. Yeah. So, and at KISE we are working towards seeing a situation where we produce, because actually that is one of our mandates, to produce, to maintain those devices. And again, Doreen, let me tell you, these devices, you cannot say these are the devices and they are adequate. Remember, the persons with disability are not a homogeneous group. They are not the same. Each has got a different need.
Regardless of the disability.
You might find a child with low vision, but the kind of glasses, the kind of spectacles, the kind of low vision devices that that person needs, everyone has got his own. So again, you cannot just produce and put them and wait for them to be procured. No, you just, there is the assessment bit of it. What do you need? Design it to that person. So again, that's another expense. So I think the government and our supporters, that is the stakeholders, we need to invest more in terms of resources for those learners.
Clearly, there's really quite a lot that still needs to be done in that particular regard. Finally, as we wind down, sir, talk to us about now the KISE conference, when it will be happening and what it's all about, and the dates as well. Yes,
thank you very much. I think all what we have been discussing today, Doreen, this morning, I think it's all about what the conference will be about. The conference is about establishing dialogue to enable parents come together, to enable the community be able to understand these children, an open forum for us to say, this is right, this is wrong, this is what can be done, and then we shall give as a way forward. And this is not something we are doing today and that is the end, because we know even if we do it on 23rd and 24th, we still have others who will not be with us that time, but we want to cascade the dialogue and this discourse to parents so that they take it over. They become engaged. They become the owners of the process. Otherwise, before they used to give the children to the teachers and they sit back. Today, we want them to be together, and that is the only way we can support these children. So the conference is actually both virtual and physical. It is international. We are having presenters right from across the world, quite many, to share experiences of different countries. We have presenters within Kenya, so also to present papers and research reports, so that we are also able to compare. This will be held on 23rd and 24th of this month, November, at Kenya Institute of Special Education. That is the venue. And we welcome you to share the discourse. It will be a very interesting one, I'm very sure. Very sure,
Thank you so much for your time and just taking your whole 60 minutes to talk to us about where we are and perhaps what more we can do. So sure, this has been really quite informative for our viewers as well. We appreciate that. That has been Mr. Johanna Mweu, who is the Deputy Academic Registrar Examinations, as well as the KISE Chairperson 2022 conference. Of course, we have centered our conversation on just looking at some of those gaps, as well as how to bridge them, looking at where we are as a country when it comes to matters of inclusivity, as well as representation. And this is in the aspects of children and on matters education. Good place to end this conversation, but plenty more still coming your way after this break. Stay with us.